Saul kicked the frozen mud off the heavy rubber mud flap of the Iron Lady. She was a 1985 Peterbilt 379, a beast of chrome and steel. He had driven her 3 million miles without a single rebuild. A young man in a pristine safety vest walked out of the dispatch office. It was Kevin, the new operations manager, holding a tablet. "Saul, why is that relic still parked in Bay 1?" Kevin asked, annoyed. "I'm warming the glow plugs, Kevin. It's 20 below zero." Kevin shook his head, tapping his screen. "Efficiency is down 12%. We are decommissioning the manual fleet today. The future is autonomous. Look at this." Kevin pointed to a sleek, faceless electric truck. No driver, no sleep breaks, no complaints, no pension. Saul patted the hood of his truck. "No soul, either." Kevin laughed. "Soul doesn't deliver freight, Saul. Algorithms do. Hand over your keys. You're mandatory retired. Effective now." Saul looked at the mountain pass looming in the distance, dark clouds gathering. "That pass is treacherous, Kevin. A robot can't feel black ice. The robot has LiDAR sensors, old man. It sees everything." Saul handed over his keys, his hand trembling with suppressed rage. "It sees the road, son, but it doesn't respect it." Kevin waved him off. "Go home. Enjoy your rocking chair." Saul walked away, leaving his life behind in the parking lot. He didn't know that the robot was about to drive straight into hell, and that the cargo inside was the only hope for a dying child. Saul drove his small pickup truck back to his empty cabin in the woods. The silence of the house was deafening. For 40 years, the roar of a diesel engine had been his lullaby. The vibration of the steering wheel had been his connection to the world. He sat in his recliner, staring at the map of the Rockies pinned to his wall. He had driven every inch of those red lines. He knew where the elk crossed at mile marker 402. He knew which diner served the best coffee at 3 a.m. He knew that on the Devil's Spine, a winding road with a 1,000-foot drop, you never, ever touched the brakes. You downshifted and prayed. Kevin, the young manager, saw trucking as a math problem. He had deployed the new AutoHaul 5000 to deliver a critical shipment to the Children's Hospital. Rare blood type and specialized dialysis equipment for a neonatal unit. The shipment was Priority Alpha. Lives depended on it. By 6 p.m., the blizzard hit. It wasn't just snow. It was a whiteout. On the mountain pass, the road turned into a sheet of glass. The AutoHaul 5000 was cruising, but the map didn't know that an avalanche had partially covered the road. Saul was watching the news when the breaking report flashed on the screen. Disaster on the pass. Autonomous supply truck jackknifed. Route blocked. Saul stood up, his coffee cup freezing in his hand. He knew exactly where it was, the switchback. If the truck had jackknifed there, the trailer was likely hanging over the edge. If the engine stalled, the medical supplies would freeze and become useless in less than 2 hours. His phone rang. He ignored it. Then a second call came. It was Dr. Evans, an old friend who worked at the hospital. "Saul?" The doctor's voice was breaking. "Please tell me you're driving that truck." "I'm not, Doc. They fired me. It's a robot." "Saul, we have 6 babies in the NICU. If that equipment doesn't get here by midnight, ... they won't make it. The police can't get a tow truck up there." Saul looked at the clock. It was 7 p.m. He had 5 hours. The pass was a 3-hour drive in good weather. In a blizzard? It was suicide. "I don't have a truck, Doc. They took my keys." "Saul, please." Saul hung up. He put on his heavy coat and grabbed his gloves, the leather ones, stained with diesel and grease. He drove his pickup to the depot. When he arrived, the scene was panic. Kevin was screaming at computer technicians. "Reboot it. Tell it to reverse." "We can't, sir. The connection is lost." Kevin looked up and saw Saul. The arrogance was gone, replaced by terror. "Saul," Kevin whispered. "Help us." Saul looked at the key rack. The keys to the Iron Lady were gone. "Where is my truck?" Saul asked, his voice low. "We sold it for scrap," Kevin stammered. Saul closed his eyes. The only truck left was the Beast, an old, decommissioned heavy hauler with no heater and heavy steering. But it had snow chains permanently welded to the tires. "Give me the keys to the Beast," Saul said. "That thing doesn't run," Kevin cried. "It's a death trap." "Give me the keys." Saul ran out to the back lot. The Beast was buried under a foot of snow. He climbed into the cab. It smelled of mold and old tobacco. He pumped the accelerator and turned the key. The engine groaned. Chug, dot, 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 chug. It didn't want to wake up. "Come on, old girl," Saul whispered. "One last ride." "For the babies." He turned the key again. Roar. A plume of black smoke erupted. The engine shook the ground. Saul drove the Beast to the loading dock. "Load the backup supplies," he ordered. Kevin ran out. "Saul, you can't go up there. The police closed the road. It's zero visibility." Saul looked down from the cab. "Get out of my way, Kevin, or get under my tires." Saul dropped the hammer. The Beast lurched forward, tearing out of the gate. The drive to the mountain base was brutal. The heater didn't work, so the inside of the cab was freezing. Saul could see his breath. He had to keep the window cracked open to prevent the windshield from fogging up, letting the ice storm slap his face. It kept him awake. It kept him sharp. He reached the police blockade. The sheriff was there. "Saul, turn back. The pass is a sheet of ice." Saul didn't stop. He geared down. He blasted the air horn. The sheriff saw the look in Saul's eyes and waved his men to move the barricade. They knew better than to stop a man on a mission from God. The climb began. The road was invisible. White above, white below. Saul drove by feel. He felt the rumble strips in the steering wheel. He was double-clutching, shifting gears with a rhythm that was pure muscle memory. He reached the devil's spine. The wind hit the truck sideways with the force of a wrecking ball. The trailer swayed. The tires slipped. Saul fought the wheel, his old shoulders screaming in pain. He didn't touch the brakes. Brakes meant death. He used the Jake brake, letting the compression of the motor slow the truck down. Then he saw it. The red flashing lights of the stranded robot truck. It was a disaster. The autonomous truck had tried to correct a slide and ended up jackknifed, hanging halfway off the cliff. Saul stopped the Beast 50 feet away. He grabbed a heavy tow chain and jumped out. The wind nearly blew him off the mountain. He crawled on his hands and knees toward the robot truck. He had to hook the chain to the frame before it tipped over. But as he crawled under the truck, the ground shook. Saul worked fast, his fingers numb. He hooked the chain. He scrambled back to the Beast. Now came the hard part. He had to pull a 40-ton dead weight up an ice-covered incline in reverse, without sliding off the cliff himself. He put the Beast in reverse. He feathered the clutch. The tires spun. Whir, no traction. "Come on," Saul yelled. He remembered an old trick his father taught him. He reached under the seat and pulled out a bag of kitty litter he kept for emergencies. He poured the grit onto the ice under his rear tire. He tried again. The grit caught. The tire bit. The Beast roared. The chain went taut. The robot truck groaned. Inch by inch, foot by foot. Saul pulled the metal monster back from the edge. Once the robot was safe, Saul realized he had to tow it the rest of the way. He was hauling double the weight on the worst road in America, in a blizzard. For the next 2 hours, Saul didn't blink. He wrestled the steering wheel. He talked to the truck. He prayed. He hallucinated from the cold, seeing his late wife sitting in the passenger seat, telling him to keep going. "Easy, Saul. Easy on the curve," she whispered in his mind. He crested the summit. The descent was even harder. Gravity wanted to push him down the mountain faster than he could control. But Saul was a master of gravity. He played the gears like a virtuoso pianist, keeping the heavy load in check. At 11:55 p.m., the lights of the city appeared below. At 11:58 p.m., Saul rolled the beast into the ambulance bay of the children's hospital. He honked the horn. It wasn't a polite beep. It was a victory cry. Doctors and nurses ran out. They opened the trailer of the towed robot truck. The temperature gauge on the medicine was flashing critical, but still within the safe range. They had made it with 2 minutes to spare. Saul didn't get out. He couldn't. His legs were frozen. His hands were locked onto the steering wheel. Dr. Evans climbed into the cab and saw Saul shivering uncontrollably. "You did it, you crazy old fool," Dr. Evans cried. The next morning, Kevin arrived at the hospital. Saul was drinking hot soup. Kevin stood at the foot of the bed. "I calculated the odds," Kevin said softly. "The computer said there was a 0% chance of success." Saul blew on his soup. "That's why I don't like computers, Kevin. They don't know how to factor in heart." Kevin nodded, tears welling. "I resigned this morning." "No," Saul said. "Learn. Trucking is poetry. You need to drive the pass." Kevin looked shocked. "Me? Drive?" "Yes. And when you come back, scared and shaking, then you'll know how to treat your drivers." A week later, the company issued a press release. They were pausing the autonomous program. They were rehiring all the retired drivers as master consultants to train the new generation. And they bought Saul a new truck, but not a new one. They found the Iron Lady at the scrapyard, bought her back, restored her, and painted the King of the Ice on the door. Saul drove her for another 5 years. He never used a GPS. He never used an automatic transmission. He drove with his window cracked open, listening to the wind, feeling the road, and reminding the world that while machines can move cargo ... only men can deliver hope. We live in an era where we think technology can replace humanity. We trust screens more than we trust eyes. We trust data more than we trust instincts. But when the elements turn against us, when the road turns to ice and the night goes black, the only thing that matters is the beating heart behind the wheel. The elderly men and women we discard as obsolete are the ones who pave the roads we drive on. They possess a grit and a resilience that no algorithm can replicate. Respect the driver. Respect the worker. Respect the hands that steer the world through the storm. Because one day, you might be the one waiting for a delivery that only they can bring.